Good day everyone, I'm Kristen Cledem Sardan from BSET English 1A. And in this video, I'll discuss learner-centered teaching, an approach that shifts the focus from teachers to students, encouraging active learning, critical thinking, and problem solving. I'd like to also acknowledge my fellow discussants, Cassandra Caballes, Jaylin Apolinario, Eliza Texon, and Nurzaina Kelly Salim, who contributed to this discussion. By the end of this video, you will be able to: number 1, differentiate learner-centered teaching from teacher-centered approaches. Number 2, understand why shifting to a learner-centered model is important. Number 3, recognize the teacher's role in fostering student engagement. Let's define what is learner-centered teaching. Learner-centered teaching puts students at the core of their learning. Instead of passively receiving information, students actively participating in deciding what, how, when they learn. Unlike teacher-centered methods where the teacher controls the learning process, this approach promotes student ownership of education. Next is the characteristic of learner-centered teaching. Number 1, active engagement. Students participate in discussion, problem solving, and critical thinking exercise. Number 2, skill development. Teachers help students build essential skills like analysis, communication, and problem solving. Number 3, reflection. Students assess their learning strategies and progress. Number 4, motivation and autonomy. Students have a say in their learning, increasing motivation. Number 5, collaboration. Learning is interactive, encouraging teamwork and peer feedback. To end my discussion, learner-centered teaching shifts the focus to students, promoting engagement, critical thinking, and collaboration. As future educators, we must adopt our teaching methods to create an environment where students take charge of their learning and reach their full potential.
Good day everyone, good day to you coach student. Today I will discuss the topic 2, which is the paradigm shift from teacher-centered and learner-centered philosophies. A paradigm shift from teacher-centered learning philosophies refers to a fundamental change in educational practice, moving away from a teaching style where the teacher is the primary source of knowledge and control, towards a student-centered approach that empowers learners to actively participate, take ownership of their learning, and develop critical thinking skills rather than passively receiving information from the teacher. So in teacher-centered philosophies, we have the essentialism and perennialism. So essentialism is a teacher-centered educational philosophy that emphasizes core subjects and traditional values. And these are the principles of essentialism. We have the teacher-centered instruction, core subjects, traditional values, and discipline and rigorous instruction. While in perennialism is a teacher-centered educational philosophy that emphasizes teaching timeless ideas and universal truths. It's based on the belief that knowledge is enduring and that the principles of existence are constant. Perennialism focuses on developing students' intellectual and moral qualities. It aims to prepare students for life by teaching them how to think critically and reason independently. So the perennialism emphasizes the study of classic works of literature, history, science, and religion. It believes that these works are relevant to any society at any time. Now, in learner-centered philosophies, we have the progressivism, humanism, and constructivism. In progressivism is a learner-centered educational philosophy that focuses on students' interests and needs. It emphasizes experiential learning, problem solving, and social skills. And these are the key ideas of progressivism: learning by doing, active learning, problem solving, social skills, and ongoing growth. So the next is the humanism. Humanism is a learner-centered teaching philosophy that focuses on the individual needs of students. It emphasizes the importance of self-direction, choice, and self-evaluation. And these are the principles of humanism: self-direction, self-evaluation, non-threatening environment, and well-being, and whole-person education. And while in constructivism is a learner-centered philosophy of education that emphasizes the idea that students construct their own knowledge. It's based on the idea that people learn by building on their existing knowledge and experiences. And this is how constructivism works: active learning, hands-on activities, collaborative learning, and rethinking old ideas. And that is all for my topic. Thank you everyone, and thank you for watching.
Good day to each and everyone. My name is Jaylene D. Apolinario, and today we will discuss about the resistance to change, managing the shift, faculty resistance, and sources of faculty resistance. Number 1, resistant to change, managing the shift. It is a human nature to counteract any changes, but change is inevitable. The reason why people resist to change is because it's not an easy transition and there is the fear of the unknown. Students resist learner-centered approaches for a variety of reasons. The 4 most common reasons students resist learner-centered approaches are: Number 1, learner-centered approaches are more work. Number 2, learner-centered approaches are more threatening. Number 3, learner-centered approaches involves loss. And number 4, learner-centered approaches may beyond students. Number 1, learner-centered approaches are more work. These approaches are more work for faculty who now face complex instructional design issues, but a student resists because they quickly realize that this means much more work for them as well. So it simply means that it increases workload. Students resist because they have to do more work, which can feel overwhelming. Number 2, learner-centered approaches are more threatening. So students also resist these approaches because they are afraid. The teacher has opened Pandora's box and let out all sorts of unknown and familiar policies, practices, assignments, and expectation not regularly encountered in other classes. So it is more about the fear of the unknown. Students are uncomfortable with the unfamiliar structure and expectation of the learner-centered approaches. Number 3, learner-centered approaches involve loss. Students may resist due to the loss of familiar structures and the certainty they're provided, even if they intellectually understand the benefits. The emotional response to this loss can manifest as resistance. So it is the loss and discomfort. Students resist because they lost the comfort and familiarity of the traditional methods. Number 4, learner-centered approaches may be beyond students. Poorly implemented learner-centered approaches can be unfamiliar or unethical if they demand tasks beyond students' abilities. Resistance in such cases justifiable response to an unreasonable expectation. So it is all about exceeding students' capabilities. Students resist because they feel the approach demands too much of them, leading to frustration and a feeling of being overwhelmed. So now let's move to our second subtopic, which is all about faculty resistance.
So faculty and administrator may resist learner-centered approaches just as strongly as students, analyzing the basis of their objection, potentiality, workload, fear of the unknown, or loss of control is crucial before considering how to support committed faculty. So, faculty and administrator like student can resist learner-centered teaching due to concern about workload, the unknown, or losing control. Understanding this objection is key to helping a faculty who are committed to the approach. And for our last subtopic, it is all about sources of faculty resistance. So faculty resistance to learner-centered approaches stems from both perceived threats to confidence, authority, and expertise, and concerns about practical implication. Produce content, coverage student, self-governance, and time allocation for skill development. Addressing these valid concerns requires thoughtful explanation and justification. So why? It simply means that faculty resist learner-centered teaching because they feel it threatens their confidence, authority, and expertise, or because they worry about practical issues like covering content, student control, and time spent on skill. To address this concern, we need to clearly explain and justify learner-centered method. So here are strategies in dealing with faculty resistance. Number one, students should take responsibility. So this means students should actively participate in their learning, not just passively receive information. Number two, often it is the faculty who does because we adapt our teaching to fit requests or needs of the student through detailed notes and study guides. So this means teacher often cater to student requests, providing detailed notes and guides which can hinder student independence. So now let's proceed to the consequences of faculty taking responsibility for learning. Number one, students remain passive. So this can lead to students remaining passive and lacking confidence in their ability to learn independently. So next is students do not gain confidence in their ability to learn on their own. Yet a common goal of a higher education is for graduates to be self-directed learners who can continue to learn the rest of their lives. So this means higher education aims to produce self-directed learners who can continue learning throughout their lives. So for the last one, faculty need to teach students how to take responsibility for learning. So this simply means teachers should guide students to develop the skills and habits needed to take ownership of their learning. So that would be all for my discussion, and I hope you have learned something from this. Thank you.
Good day, Coach Jude. Good day to everyone. I am Eliza B. Texan from BSS English 1A. So today, my topic is about learner-centered teaching. So now, let us define what is learner-centered teaching. Learner-centered teaching empowers learners to participate actively in the learning processes. Unlike more traditional teacher-centered approaches, which focus on the instructor, this model places the learner at the center of the learning processes. So meaning to say, teachers or must empowers learners to actively participate in the learning process. The teacher is still the classroom authority but functions more of a facilitator. A teaching approach where students are required to take on active learner roles and responsibilities beyond listening passively to instructors, lectures, and taking notes. So according to Dylan William, if we create a culture where every teacher believes they need to improve, not because they are not good enough, but because they can even better. There is no limit to what we can achieve. So meaning to say, teachers should seek growth not because they are lacking, but because they can always be better, unlocking limitless potential. So now let's move on to the dimension of learner-centered teaching. According to Weimer 2002, there are practices or dimensions that need to change to achieve learning-centered teaching. So the first is the functions of content. So when we say functions of content, it focuses on the higher order thinking rather than memorization, allowing learners to actively explore and reflect on their learning. Personalized learning involves differentiating instruction so that the students can learn in a way that suit their personal needs. In addition to building a knowledge base, the content facilitates students to first, build an appreciation for value of content. Second, build discipline-specific learning methodologies. Practice using inquiry or ways of thinking in the discipline. Learn to solve real problems. Students engage in most of the content to make it their own. Students make meaning out of their content. Content can help students develop an organized framework or way to learn in their discipline. Content is framed so that students see how it can be applied in the future. So now let's move on to another dimension. It's about the role of the instructor. So it serves as a facilitator that promotes learning rather than a content expert or authoritarian classroom manager. An essential role of instructor is to assist students to learn. So the teacher professionalization, teachers need opportunity to ask questions themselves, try out new strategies, and learn from experts throughout their careers. The instructor creates an environment that first fosters students' learning, accommodates different learning styles, explicitly aligns objectives, teaching methods and assessment consistently, utilize multiple teaching techniques appropriate for students' learning goals, designs activities in which students interact with the material, the teacher, and each other. Another is motivate students to learn intrinsically. So another dimension is who should take responsibility for learning. So the answer is the student should take responsibility. Often, it is the faculty who does because we adapt our teaching to fit requests, needs of students through detailed notes and study guides. The consequences of faculty taking responsibility for learning are students remain passive, students do not gain confidence in their ability to learn on their own, yet a common goal of a higher education is for graduates to be self-directed learners who can continue to learn the rest of their lives. So, faculty needs to teach students how to take responsibility for learning. There are specific skills that can be taught, practiced, and mastered.
Good day everyone! It's nice to share another learning video with you today. I am your teacher, Nurzaina K. Salim. So let's start with the question, why do you assess students? So, we will focus on the purposes and processes of assessment. Assessment is integrated within the learning process. Instructors give formative feedback for the purposes of fostering improvement. Students have multiple opportunities to assess themselves and their peers. Students can learn from their mistakes and then demonstrate mastery. Instructors encourages students to justify their answers when they do not agree with those of instructor. Instructor and students mutually agree on a time frame for feedback and always follow the time frame for providing feedback. Instructor uses authentic assessment throughout the course. Now, let's move on to the next question. What happens if students have some control over how the course is run? So we have the balance of power. Learner-centered approaches empower students to take responsibility and to share in some of the decisions about their courses. Students can have some say over some policies and deadlines. It allows students some grading options. Once students begin to gain some control over the course, they will engage more in the course and will learn more. That's all for today's lesson. I hope you learned from listening. That's all. Thank you.